Hey there, ready for a deep dive into some seriously thought-provoking stuff? Today we're tackling justice, but not the kind you see on TV. We're going deep, really deep, into a progressive, even futuristic vision for how society can deal with wrongdoing.
It's some really exciting stuff. We're exploring a discourse by Indian philosopher Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar called Justice and Corrective Measures.
Justice and corrective measures. Yeah, that might just change the way you think about the whole concept of justice.
It really might.
Okay, so full disclosure, when I first saw corrective measures, I was picturing like a timeout corner for adults, but it's way more nuanced than that, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sarkar is not talking about simple punishments. He's talking about really understanding the root causes of crime and focusing on rehabilitation and trying to understand, like you said, the nuances. Think of it like this. Instead of asking, how do we punish this person, we ask, what led them here and how do we help them become a valuable part of society?
Okay, yeah, that's a huge shift in thinking. But it makes me think about something. People commit crimes for all sorts of reasons. So how does this corrective measures approach actually work in practice? How do we implement something like that?
Well, that's where Sarkar's categorization of criminals comes in. He outlines 5 distinct types, each with its own set of causes and potential for rehabilitation.
5 types of criminals.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but this is going to help you understand the depth of his thinking.
All right, let's break it down. Starting with, I believe, the criminals by nature, which sounds a little ominous.
It's a category that really makes you think. These are individuals who might have inherent mental or physical predispositions toward criminal behavior. And it's a challenging concept because it raises all sorts of questions about free will and accountability.
So are we saying that some people are just born bad? Because that doesn't really sound very optimistic or futuristic.
Not exactly. It's not about labeling people as bad. It's about recognizing that some individuals might have underlying conditions that contribute to their behavior. And here's where the optimistic, futuristic part comes in. Imagine a society where we can identify these predispositions early on and provide the support needed to help these individuals thrive.
So instead of throwing someone in jail, we might offer them therapy or medical treatment. Is that what Sarkar's suggesting?
You're getting it. Sarkar envisions specialized corrective centers with multidisciplinary teams, psychologists, physicians, sociologists, all working together to provide care and guidance tailored to each individual's needs. Think of it like a really advanced, holistic approach to rehabilitation.
Wow, that's a pretty radical departure from our current justice system.
Yeah.
But I like where it's going. So what's the second type of criminal on Sarkar's list?
These are the criminals out of habit, which focuses on how weak mental strength and a lack of moral development can lead someone down a criminal path. It's about getting caught in a cycle of bad decisions and not having the tools to break free.
So it's not that they're inherently bad, but they've developed bad habits that lead to criminal activity.
Exactly. It's like the saying, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. They might not even realize they're on that slippery slope until it's too late.
That makes me think about the role of education and mentorship. Could early intervention programs help people develop stronger moral compasses and avoid falling into those negative patterns?
Absolutely. That's one of the key takeaways here. Investing in preventative measures can have a huge impact. Imagine a future where communities provide support and resources to help individuals develop strong moral character and resist negative influences.
Okay, so we've got criminals by nature and criminals out of habit. What's the third category all about?
This one is particularly thought-provoking. Sarkar calls them criminals due to environment. It highlights how external circumstances, things like poverty, abusive families, negative social influences, can actually push people into criminal behavior.
So even someone with a strong moral compass and good intentions could end up committing a crime if they're constantly surrounded by negativity and hardship. It kind of makes you rethink who you judge, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that's one of the most powerful aspects of Sarkar's perspective. He challenges us to look beyond individual actions and consider the systemic factors that contribute to crime.
That's a really important point, especially today when there's so much awareness of how social and economic inequalities impact people's lives.
Yeah, it really makes you question the effectiveness of just punishing individuals without addressing the root causes of crime. What if we invested more in creating a supportive environment for everyone?
Right. What if we focused on building a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive? It almost feels like we're talking about two completely different approaches to justice.
That's a great way to put it. On one hand, we have the traditional system that focuses on punishment and retribution. And on the other hand, we have Sarkar's vision, which is all about understanding, rehabilitation, and creating a more just and equitable society.
Okay, so far we've covered three types of criminals. Those predisposed to criminal behavior, those who fall into bad habits, and those pushed into crime by their environment. Yeah. What about the fourth category? What does Sarkar say about that?
So the fourth category is criminals due to poverty. And this one really dives into the complexities of judging someone driven to crime by economic hardship. It's not just a passing acknowledgement of poverty as a factor, but like a deep exploration of what happens when a person's basic needs aren't met.
Yeah, it makes you think about those stories you hear of people stealing food just to survive. It's a desperate situation, and it really challenges our ideas of what's right and wrong. Is it really fair to punish someone for trying to meet their basic needs?
Exactly. And Sarkar doesn't shy away from that question. He even goes so far as to ask whether revolution is a legitimate response when the economic structure itself is unjust. It's a really powerful statement that forces us to confront the potential consequences of inequality.
So it's not just about individual choices. It's about creating a system that provides for everyone. Right? A system that ensures that everyone has a chance to succeed regardless of their circumstances.
You got it. It's about recognizing that poverty is often a systemic issue and that true justice requires addressing those systemic issues, not just punishing individuals.
This is all really making me think about the interconnectedness of everything. Poverty can lead to crime, but then crime also perpetuates poverty. It's a vicious cycle, and it feels like we need some pretty radical solutions to break it.
Absolutely. And that's where Sarkar's progressive vision really shines. He talks about creating a more just and equitable economic system, one that provides opportunities for everyone to thrive. Imagine a world where everyone has access to education, healthcare, and a living wage. Wouldn't that be amazing?
It would be a game changer for sure. Okay, so we've covered four categories so far: predisposed to crime, bad habits, environmental factors, and poverty. What about the fifth and final type of criminal? What does Sarkar have to say about them?
The fifth category is criminals out of momentary weakness. This one focuses on how temporary mental states, like kleptomania, can sometimes lead to criminal acts. It's about understanding that even well-intentioned people can make bad decisions when they're under extreme stress or experiencing a mental health crisis.
So it's not that they're inherently bad, but they had a lapse in judgment due to circumstances beyond their control.
Precisely. And this category really challenges us to consider context and intent when judging such cases. It's about recognizing that people are complex and that sometimes even good people make mistakes.
This reminds me of something I read about false confessions. People, especially under intense pressure, can convince themselves that they committed a crime they didn't actually commit. It's a fascinating and somewhat scary thought.
It is, and it highlights the need for a more nuanced and compassionate approach to justice. We can't just assume that everyone who confesses is guilty. We need to look at the whole picture, consider the individual's mental state, and ensure that they have access to proper legal representation.
Sarkar's 5 categories are really making me rethink my own assumptions about criminals and the reasons they commit crimes. It's not as simple as just good versus bad. There are so many factors at play.
Exactly. And this understanding is essential for building a more just and effective system. We need to move beyond simplistic labels and embrace the complexity of human behavior.
Okay, so we've talked about the 5 types of criminals, which is incredibly insightful. But I'm curious about how all this connects to a bigger picture. How does Sarkar envision a future where justice is truly served?
Well, he connects these individual categories to a theme that's incredibly relevant to our world today: the intersection of crime and politics.
Ooh, that's juicy. Does he talk about those corrupt politicians who end up in jail? Because I'm all for holding those folks accountable.
It's more than just individual politicians, though those examples are certainly out there. He observes how unchecked ambition, the relentless pursuit of power for its own sake, can breed criminal behavior. And he's not just talking about breaking the law, he's talking about actions that are harmful to others, even if they're technically legal.
So it's like that saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Exactly. And Sarkar challenges us to think about how we can create a system that minimizes the potential for abuse of power. He envisions a future where political systems are designed to promote ethical behavior, transparency, and accountability.
That sounds amazing, but is that even realistic? I mean, power dynamics are so ingrained in our society. It feels like a huge challenge to shift those structures.
It is challenged, but I think it's a challenge worth striving for. Imagine a world where leaders are motivated by a genuine desire to serve the people, where power is used to uplift and empower rather than exploit and oppress.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together. Sarkar's vision is about more than just reforming the criminal justice system. It's about creating a more just and equitable society as a whole.
You're getting it. And another key piece of that vision is recognizing the relativity of virtue and vice.
Relativity, like everything is relative, so there's no such thing as right and wrong. Because that sounds a bit chaotic, doesn't it?
Not quite. It's more about recognizing that our ideas of right and wrong can change over time and across cultures. What might be considered a virtue in one context could be seen as a vice in another.
I see what you mean. Like slavery was once considered acceptable by many, but now it's universally condemned as a horrific injustice.
Exactly. And that evolution of our moral compass is crucial for creating a more just world. Sarkar emphasizes the need for a system that is grounded in principles of compassion, understanding, and a willingness to evolve with the times.
Okay, so we've got this big picture vision of a more just and equitable society. But how do we actually get there?
Yeah.
What specific steps does Sarkar propose for reimagining the judicial system?
Well, one of his key proposals is to shift away from punishment as the primary goal and focus instead on rehabilitation. He envisions a system where the goal is not to punish people for their mistakes, but to help them learn, grow, and become productive members of society.
So instead of prisons as we know them, he's talking about something more like reform schools, where the emphasis is on education, therapy, and skill building.
You're getting the picture. Imagine a world where prisons are designed to be places of healing and transformation, rather than just warehouses for punishment.
That would require a pretty dramatic shift in our thinking about the purpose of incarceration, wouldn't it? I mean, right now, prisons are all about punishment and retribution.
Absolutely. And that's why Sarkar's vision is so revolutionary. He's calling for a fundamental shift in our values and priorities. He believes that a truly just system should focus on restoring individuals to wholeness, not just punishing them for their mistakes.
This all sounds incredibly hopeful and inspiring. But I'm also a bit skeptical. Can we really create a system that is both just and compassionate? A system that holds people accountable while also recognizing their humanity and potential for change?
It's a tall order, for sure, but I think Sarkar offers us a roadmap for getting there. He lays out a series of practical steps we can take to move towards this more humane and effective approach to justice.
Okay, tell me more. What are these practical steps? What can we do to make this vision a reality? Okay, so tell me more. What are these practical steps? What can we do to make this vision a reality?
Well, first off, Sarkar is completely against capital punishment. He argues that taking a life, even in the name of justice, goes against the very principles of a compassionate and rehabilitative system.
Yeah, the death penalty always felt like a contradiction to me. How can you say you value life and then turn around and take a life? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Sarkar believes in the potential for redemption, even for those who've committed terrible crimes. He argues that even the worst offenders can change and learn from their mistakes and contribute to society in a positive way.
So no death penalty. Got it. What else is on Sarkar's list of reforms?
He talks about transforming prisons into something more like reform schools, places where individuals receive education, therapy, job training, the support they need to reintegrate into society. It's about creating an environment where people can heal and grow and develop into their best selves.
It sounds like a pretty radical shift from the way prisons operate now.
Yeah.
I mean, most prisons seem more focused on punishment and isolation than on rehabilitation.
That's one of the biggest challenges we face. We need to completely rethink the purpose of incarceration. Instead of viewing prisons as places of punishment, we need to see them as opportunities for transformation.
That's a powerful way to frame it. But it would require a lot more than just changing the name, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need a whole new approach to staffing these facilities.
Absolutely. Sarkar envisions a future where prison staff are more than just guards. They're counselors, mentors, teachers, and skilled professionals who are dedicated to helping individuals turn their lives around.
So instead of locking people up and throwing away the key, we're investing in their rehabilitation and giving them a real chance to succeed.
Exactly. And this investment isn't just for the benefit of the incarcerated individuals, It's for the benefit of society as a whole. When people are given the opportunity to transform their lives, they become assets to their communities, contributing to the economy, raising healthy families, and making the world a better place.
This all sounds incredibly optimistic and hopeful. But it also seems like a massive undertaking. Where do we even start?
Well, Sarkar highlights a few key areas where we can begin to make a difference. One of those areas is supporting the families of the incarcerated.
That's an interesting point. We don't often think about the ripple effects of incarceration on families and communities.
Right. When someone is incarcerated, their family members often suffer as well, both emotionally and financially. Children might lose a parent, spouses might lose a partner, and families might struggle to make ends meet without the incarcerated person's income.
It's a heartbreaking cycle that often perpetuates poverty and crime.
Exactly. So Sarkar argues that society has a responsibility to support these families, to ensure that children have access to education and healthcare, that spouses have access to job training and financial assistance, and that families have the resources they need to stay afloat during a difficult time.
That makes a lot of sense. By supporting families, we're not only helping them cope with the challenges of incarceration, but we're also preventing future crime by breaking the cycle of poverty and instability.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation. And another key area where we can make a difference is by ensuring accessible justice for all.
Accessible justice, what does that mean in practice?
It means making sure that everyone, regardless of their income or social status, has equal access to the legal system. It means providing adequate legal representation for those who can't afford it, ensuring that courts are fair and impartial, and working to eliminate systemic biases that disproportionately impact marginalized communities.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. We're talking about a holistic approach to justice, one that recognizes the interconnectedness of everything, from individual actions to societal structures.
Exactly. And Sarkar takes this interconnectedness even further by arguing that a spiritual foundation is essential for lasting peace and justice.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. What does he mean by a spiritual foundation? Does that mean everyone needs to suddenly become super religious or something?
Not at all. What Sarkar's getting at is the idea that true justice needs to be grounded in a sense of interconnectedness and shared humanity. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every individual, regardless of their background, beliefs, or actions.
That's a beautiful idea. If we can see ourselves in others, recognize our shared humanity, then we're more likely to treat them with compassion and understanding.
Exactly. And this recognition, this sense of interconnectedness, is ultimately a spiritual insight. It's about understanding that we're all part of something larger than ourselves, that we're all connected in a profound way.
So it's not about imposing any particular religious beliefs, but rather about cultivating a sense of empathy, compassion, and interconnectedness.
Precisely. And this spiritual foundation is essential for creating a more just and harmonious world. When we see ourselves as part of a larger whole, we're less likely to exploit or harm others. We're more likely to cooperate, to share resources, and to work together for the common good.
This is all incredibly inspiring. It feels like we're talking about a whole new paradigm for justice, one that is grounded in compassion, understanding, and a deep respect for human dignity.
That's exactly what Sarkar is proposing. He envisions a future where justice is not about punishment, but about restoration, healing, and transformation. A future where we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and work together to create a more just and harmonious world.
Wow, what a powerful vision. I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical at first, but you've really opened my mind to the possibilities of a more just and compassionate future.
It's truly inspiring, isn't it? And the best part is we can all play a role in making this vision a reality.
That's right. It's not just up to politicians and policymakers. Each and every one of us can contribute to creating a more just and compassionate world.
Absolutely. Whether it's volunteering at a local organization, donating to a cause you believe in, or simply treating everyone you meet with kindness and respect, every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
And that's what I love about Sarkar's vision. It's not just a theoretical framework. It's a call to action. It's an invitation for all of us to step up, to make a difference, and to create a world where justice prevails and humanity thrives.
Beautifully said. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make the world a better place. And that's a message worth sharing with everyone.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into justice. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the 5 types of criminals to the relativity of virtue and vice to the spiritual foundation of a just and compassionate society.
It's been a truly insightful and thought-provoking journey, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to learn more about Sarkar's ideas and to explore ways they can contribute to creating a more just and compassionate world.
Absolutely. So, to our amazing listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into justice. We hope this episode has sparked your curiosity, challenged your assumptions, and perhaps even ignited a passion for creating a better future for all.
Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep believing in the power of compassion and understanding to transform the world.
And remember, justice is not just a concept, it's a journey. And it's a journey we must take together. Until next time, keep diving deep.